James, we'll start off. Of course, everybody knows you as a commentator. How did you get into the world of commentary?
To be honest with you, I don't remember how I got into it. It's really bad, isn't it? I don't.
Mm,
I remember I was just joined this side of the community because I've been in the community or an F1 community in sense for nearly 6 years now, which is actually quite scary. But
mm,
yeah, nearly 6 years. I was 12 when I joined this, so
wow,
uh,
go
yeah,
way
I
back.
was I was literally a fetus. Basically, what happened was I was speaking with Mundo because he used to be the go-to guy for me. I just spoke with him a lot back in the SRL days, and I was just like, I was curious. I was pretty terrible at racing, always have been. I'm not going to say I always will be, but always have been. And I just asked him, look, I've always been good with words, always presented myself quite well in my speech and everything like that. And I think Mundo may have said, look, do you want to try commentary? And I was just like, yeah, okay, sure. So I done I didn't actually hang on, how did this work? I wanted to get into commentary. I'd started I think with SRL GP3 and then I done RGL tier 1. It's very weird because they were all very close to each other. It must have been like the same week. So yeah, so how all of that came about and yeah, just transpired from there really.
Yeah, you mean you started off in small places and now you're doing huge leagues. You know, you've done AOR, you're currently doing ILR, you've done real life commentary as well. What
Yeah.
would be to date? What would be your favorite commentary moment of your life so far?
Favorite commentary moment. I'm
Difficult
gonna
one.
be on. Yeah, it is. To be honest, it's probably not in the community. I mean, that sounds really cruel, but because I've been able to go and do these real life stuff, that's been not far more exciting. Like the races haven't been as exciting, but I think the pressure and everything that surrounds it means a lot more. So
Hmm.
actually doing real life stuff is it's just totally different. I don't. Well, you had Kodiak on the other day, and I don't ever recall him talking about real life stuff. I mean, I don't know whether he actually did any himself, but um, I mean, I have, and that's something I hold to myself. It's like I'm one of the very few in this community to have gone and done that.
Hmm.
Not many have been able. I mean, other than Matt Gallagher, no one's really gone and done an actual role. So, um, yeah, I'm quite privileged in that sense. So the 24 hours that I did in Middlesbrough, not too long ago, 24 hour, the British 24-hour kart
vanilla cupcakes, but they are called the Hulk on drugs.
Oh, there's a car that's gone flying off down at the hairpin at the second sector. I can't believe you just caught that in shot, actually. That's a big
Where
crash.
are we looking at? Is this
It
hairpin
was
one?
coming down, yeah. I saw a car just fly across
This is just on the S's, isn't it?
the shot here.
Let me go and have a quick look out the door, James.
What's actually gone and happened, a bit of a shocked face from the producer down there.
Oh, here we go.
Take a
Here's
look
Morgan.
at the replay.
Right, let's have a look.
Let's see what's just gone down here.
Whoa!
Sparks flying from the...
Oh, and he flipped
it.
over. And that looks like DWS.
Goodness gracious me.
That looks like DWS. Bear with me, James. I'm going to go and have a look out.
Run,
I'm going to go and run out and I'll find out what's going on. But that looks horrible.
That's a massive crash. You do not want to see karts flipping over like that. And that's a big, big moment in this race. Here we go. He's coming flying down the back straight there. You can see him in shot. Watch the sparks as he hits the curb on the entry. There, you can see the sparks. Look at the kart then flip over. It's so dry, the grass. It's probably what's cost him. He's just completely rolled the kart over. And I do hope he is okay.
It's a big deal. It was a really big deal. Loads of people there, a lot of esports people actually. I was really surprised by that. There was a big esports following there. The guys that I run it with are fantastic. The Alpha Live company, probably shouldn't disclose that, but I'm now in good links and good talks with them for future. So next year I've got scheduled events again, so that's exciting. But in terms of league racing, if I had to put a moment on a favourite league race, to be honest, the last season of Abu Dhabi wasn't bad, but I think it's a real tough one because I've always said Bahrain on RGL season 2, the opening few laps of that Grand Prix were absolutely ridiculous. My voice goes off on one. I've lost it completely. But yeah, one of those two I'd say was probably my favourite, and there's a few that I keep with some people. So Omar, Don Omar wins, he's always said to me, like, what's your favourite race? And because it's him, I've always said the GP2 Austria race in SRL as well. And that was such a good season of league racing. That was ridiculous, some of the stuff went on that year. And Omar managed to finish on the podium. And that was just a really, really cool thing because I used to get on with Omar quite well, I still do. Yeah, it's just a nice thing to have.
I mean, it's great to see someone in the community going from the virtual world to the real life world of commentary. You don't see it many people doing it. We've seen Ginger Andy, has
Yeah.
done it recently, but with football. So it's, and he's got that BBC Young Voice thing, isn't he, as well?
Absolutely, yeah.
In Salford. So it's good to see that now there's more and more people going from the commentary box to the virtual commentary box to the real life commentary box, and it's great to see. You know, I've got my fingers crossed for you, and hopefully you can do something
Thank you.
further in your career in commentary. And do you feel that's where you want to go in life? I know you've got other career aspects as well with what you're doing at the moment, but is that the end goal? Is that to be a Formula One commentator? That's where you want to be?
Well, for me, yes, I would want to be in any description a professional commentator. The way I viewed it, and I've said to most people I speak to in the community, I've just said the moment I can sit my feet up with some slippers on, with a cup of tea in my hand, and go, I get paid for commentary as a professional, will be the moment where I've said, you know what, I've achieved everything I wanted to achieve. I'm still very young, so this is what the big crack here is. Like, I started commentary when I was technically 15 years old, which really is very, that's maybe too young. But I've had my experiences, and I'm 17 years of age now, so it's still not very old when you compare myself to someone like Kodiak. Let's consider for a moment that Kodiak is old enough to be my dad. So it's there's a career pathway that's definitely there for us in esports and in real life stuff. Esports is a growing industry, and of course, you get a commentary on esports now, it's huge. So it's something I look at. Andy's a big inspiration as well. What he's done so much, and he's just fantastic. There's no other words for it. I want to continue to do real life commentary and stuff like that. I don't really mind the place where I go to do it. I mean, I'm also a massive football fan, but any level of motorsport is good for me. I've had somewhat mentoring, or I've spoken with some professional commentators down the last year or so, like had proper conversations with them, and it's very insightful what you get from them. It's something I want to do for the rest of my life, but I'm just playing my cards out, so hopefully it happens, but we don't know. It's all up in the air at the moment, but hopefully, fingers crossed, it all goes to plan.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone in the community is backing you for try and get a full-time professional role somewhere, hopefully in the future. Do you think that the real life world of commentary sort of sticks its nose up at esports commentators? Like, you see it with a lot of people I think on Facebook, when I see the Formula One account tweeting about esports, a lot of people are going, "Oh, I was just sitting behind a plastic wheel pressing the pedals." Do you think it's the same in the commentary world as well, going from commentating, virtually to real life?
It's very different. It's a very different kettle of fish. Commentators, you can only base a commentator off how good he is, and you can only commentate on certain things. You can only make something such so entertaining. Technically, commentators are in the entertainment business. You're not in the sport business, as it were. You're there to entertain people, to make sure that they've got the full overview of what the hell's going on. But it's a weird one. Esports, when you speak about esports drivers, all they do is sit around and drive on a computer game and everything like that. Strictly true, but on a wide aspect looking into it, that's technically what esports is, because that's on anything really. You go and watch football, you say that's a couple of footballers kicking a ball around a pitch. That's ultimately what it is. So people are going to get those stereotypes, and that's natural. But for us as commentators, I think it's actually, we're in a position where it doesn't really affect us too much. All you've just got to do is, if you've provided work and it's good enough quality, people will take you on. But the one thing I will say, well, we'll probably come onto this later, but just ask for stuff as well, because that's a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, you don't ask, you don't get. Yeah, it's simple as that sometimes, and I think it's the same in commentary. Like, we will talk about something like that later on. And I wanted to talk sort of outside of commentary life. I guess we know very little about you outside of commentary life. We know the odd bit. We see the odd picture of you. You know, recently you've got a new job. I know, and
Yeah.
you tweeted about having 2 interviews. So, what industry are you actually in now? I know you had an apprenticeship at one point, but what are you
Yeah.
doing now?
Okay, so let's give you a rough overview of what the hell's gone on. This last year, I'll be honest with you, Ollie, it's been crazy. Like, so much crap has happened. It's unbelievable. Let's just start from, I suppose, July last year. I'll go through quite quickly, but I'll give you long story short. So in July last year, like I got my GCSE results and I done quite well. I passed everything, so I was like, happy days. I don't want to stay at this school anymore because it's absolute rubbish.
Hmm.
I ended up staying at the school. Really, really wise of me. Took a couple of courses. I was just really the nature of person I am. I'm quite a ruthless person. In terms of I'm blunt. I'm very outspoken in some senses. Uh, very opinionated. I've been told that many a time. My sense of humour is very dry. But people kind of I just got into this school at sixth form and like the way I was being treated was still like a 12-year-old and I was just having none of it anymore. I was like, no, I can't deal with that. So I left and I got offered a position at a place that my dad kind of knew some guy who ran a big like don't really know how to describe it. It's an industry. It's like basically it's what you sell. You rent your JCBs and stuff through them basically. And I was a welder and a fitter. So basically, I went about and done all the little engine mechanical bits on big old diggers and stuff like that. Totally not the place I want to be. Um, First of all, people would make the assumption, look at your dialect, probably don't sound like you'd work in a place like that. But it wasn't the reason I left. The company was great. People there were amazing. I just left there. Then I went unemployed for a good few months, actually. I was doing nothing at all for such a long time. It was really bad. I was in quite a bad way then as well with other stuff, but it's irrelevant. I went and to another company who took me on. I know this will sound like crap to a lot of people, but bear with me here. This was a very small business. Um, they had an Australian firm of their business, and as soon as I joined, the guy who run that part of the business left. And I'm not joking, there was me and him in the business. He left. So, yes, you could say I was running an Australian firm of a business. And at 16 years of age, that is something that took me by surprise massively. It was a big, big shock. It was a big, big reality check. The business legally went against a lot of stuff, so I left the business. So I've been in a couple of jobs, believe it or not, but I left I wasn't getting paid. I changed the departments and stuff like that because I could not handle running a business at this kind of age. It's so difficult. Or running somewhat a firm of a business is very difficult. Doing it. So I left them, and then oddly enough, I'm back where I started last year. So I was back at school. I was there to sort of just cut off like any potential like links because there was an ambition of myself that was actually going into teaching, believe it or not.
Right.
And I just didn't want to do it in the end because I was like, no, it's probably not for me. I was getting told by my parents, maybe it isn't for you. And it's not a downhearting thing, but they always said that you need to go and try commentary, like go for it. That's a fair play. So now I'm doing, in essence, I work for a housing outlet or agency. It's quite local. But basically, I am your estate agent in many ways. I'm an apprentice estate agent at the moment. It's something that isn't particularly what I want to do. I've said that now I've got the job, which is okay, but it's only because at my age, it's all about getting in that income. You can do what you like with it, and that's the way I view it. So there's a short rundown of what the last year or so has been like for myself.
I mean, you say you know it's not something you want to do, but from
Yeah.
my experience, because I'm a couple of years older than you are, and sometimes you've got to do something that you don't like to get to places where you want to get to. It's just gaining that experience that a lot of companies want. Without that
Mm.
experience, they won't employ you. they wouldn't. My company right now wouldn't have employed me if I hadn't had the experience I had during I did a placement year at university, and they wouldn't have hired me. So I mean, as much of it sucks now, James, it will get better.
Yeah.
So you know, you don't. I mean, don't people get? I think a lot of people get disheartened at times when they're not where they want to be straight away. And I think a lot of people sometimes maybe some sort of privilege. Some people feel that they should be getting somewhere straight away, but unfortunately, life is a bit shit, and life isn't as easy as many people think.
Of course. This is it's the other thing that I was just gonna say. It's like someone like me, and it may be the same for other people, but me, myself, and I've got a firm ambition. I know where I want to be.
Mhm.
And the trouble is, when you've got that mindset, all you can think about is being in that position. And like I can tell you now, I'm probably going to mention it to people who of the younger audience. Just I'm not more experienced than Ollie in any way here, but just stick at what you're doing. Just stay at it and just ride through it, drive through it. Look at the end ambition and just go. You know what? I will get there eventually, but I've just got to put in the hard graft now in order for myself to get there. It's very difficult for me because I'm in a position where I do the stuff I want to do, but I just want to do it on a full-time basis. So it's kind of difficult. But nobody at my age really, some people don't have a clue what they're doing at my age. So I'm kind of thankful in that sense that I know what I want to do.
Yeah. Are you 17 now?
Yeah, 17.
Yeah, to think back. 17. I think I just figured out what I wanted to do at your age. Yeah, I wanted to be right. It was an F1 driver, then it was a games designer. Like you said, I used to kart profession until I was doing really badly in school, so I had to get moved to private school. Then I
Damn.
wanted to be a computer game designer, but then I was really bad at coding, so that was probably the first step of being good at being a computer game designer. And then I wanted to be a design engineer, and that's what I am now doing full time. So yeah, I think you've got to figure out what you want to do, and the fact you've got that in your mind already is a fantastic thing.
That's good to hear. I
Yeah.
had no idea that you did that.
Yeah. A lot of people. I mean, I don't really. I'm not very vocal on Twitter. I try and take a back step. I do at times, but yeah, no. As I have a whole host of things that people don't know about. I have lots of dark secrets. That I just I tell some people. And so mainly, if the go-kart thing is more to show off than anything. But yeah, go-karting's a very expensive sport. I'm sure you'll know, James, that you can spend thousands and thousands of pounds and still get nowhere in the sport. Unfortunately, but you referenced in this sort of last couple of minutes, you can be quite blunt. You're very honest with your opinion. Do you think that sort of set you back at times? But you've come out with something, gone, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that, and then that's closed the door on you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I do it because I know it sounds like a really like Piers Morgan thing to say, but I'm like very, I'm a firm believer of freedom of speech and everything like that and all that crap. If you really want to, I just believe that if you have a voice, express it. Why the hell have you got one? Like use it because you've got the right to. But in many senses, yes, I understand. I get what you're on about. In the community sense, I really did shoot myself in the foot. If we go down that route, I was, this was earlier this year, maybe more so last year, I'd say. I was getting a pretty bad reputation for myself. I was getting a reputation for being a good commentator, but quite awful on Twitter. So I just come out with some stuff that people didn't agree with. There was a lot of beef, not beef. There was a lot of disagreements between myself and AOR, and I made it public, which was a mistake. But this was at a time where they were, I can't go into a lot, but they were going for the like someone had to replace someone for the AOR Tier 1 role. And I said, look, I'd love to do that and everything like that. And I gave him my portfolio of work because I already had one. I found out how the organisation of it had been sorted out, and I was quite disgusted, frankly. So I spoke about it publicly, which wasn't a good idea. Eventually, I got what I wanted, but that's not really the way I wanted to do it. ULC as well. I nearly got the coordinator role for ULC. At the time, no one knew who I was. Let's get that clear. Absolutely no one knew who I was. and it was a joint thing with Gorsh, and I think the time would have been the Amazement. I could be wrong on that. I think it was him and the Amazement who were on one side, and then just myself on the other. And that got into a little bit of deliberation as well, but didn't really spoil over into too much. And eventually, I just became commentator. So, yes, I do regret massively what I've done on Twitter, and it's not a true representation of myself, as a lot of people would say. But as I'm sure people who have met me would have said, because I have met a fair few people in this community now, I am very much, when you speak to me, it's just very much how I come across. I come across as this person who is just very away with words, and I do come out with stuff that just for banter purposes. I'm very like, what you see is what you get with me. I mean, that sounds really like I'm some sort of Anthony Joshua, but no, I'm not. But I'm very, very honest in that sense. I don't bullshit. I keep it to a minimal. So everything you hear, everything you see about me on Twitter now was just a more, hopefully I'll portray it in a more professional outlook. But yeah, it's just the age. I mean, you'll get people at my age who are naturally mature. I'd say I'm quite mature for my age. And you get some people that are like a couple of years younger, a couple of years older, and they're just complete and utter fruitcakes. They are not. They're not the full ticket, and they do come out with a lot of crap. So yeah, I can only apologise to people for what I've said on Twitter in the past, but it doesn't change anything.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's not a bad thing to be outspoken, have opinions like that. But I mean, I think, like you said, you do regret some comments that you've made, and I mean, it's like you think. I think the important thing is to learn from it. It sounds like you have. You said you're a far more, well, I guess, calmer person than you used to be, and it's just the
Yeah,
way you are. Everyone is different. If everyone was the same, life would be extremely boring, and no one would have any opinions, and yeah, life would be very vanilla. So I think it's good to have, it's good to have those opinions outspoken, because some people don't. And so I think sometimes people are scared to talk about their own opinions about things, and someone like yourself comes out with stuff. I think it maybe even helps others.
potentially. I like to think it does. I understand why people are like it, because they don't want to gain that reputation on themselves. But
Hmm.
for me, it's just like I just don't. Not that I don't care, but it's that I'm not very. So if I say something, I probably just mean maybe I may not just mean. I just say for the sake of saying something, which sounds
Hmm.
really bad. But some of the stuff I think I say now is a lot less what it used to be. I'm definitely a very like work in general and doing all these big commentaries has opened my eyes, and I need to just shut up and get on with what I'm doing now and just accept that people don't really care. And it's like I don't care either anymore. I'm just like, I'm here to do my job,
Hmm.
get on with it, because that's just the way it is. It's very just like I know what I'm doing now. I do hope that I don't portray myself in a bad way anymore. That's easier said than done. I don't expect people to like me after this and say, "Oh, well, you still said it." It's like that's granted, but I'm quite fortunate that really I didn't have a lot of hate when I did this either. I had people that did turn their back and were like, "Yeah, what the hell are you doing?" But that was all probably for my benefit. So
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you think you mentioned, working for big companies, and I think you've got to be careful as well. The fact
yeah,
what you say could come and bite you in the ass. We've
mm,
seen, I know, in real life football, seen countless people who tweet stuff years and years ago, and that's come back to bite them.
scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. I mean, TRL Limitless, his old Twitter account got found a couple of
Yeah.
months ago, and he got absolutely ridiculed for it. I know Rickson and Ashley especially had a go at him for it. And yeah, you've got to be careful of what you say. And I am slightly worried what some people are saying on Twitter. I think a lot of people feel that because they've got no photo, because their name is, David Davidson, and their photo is a cat or something, they can say what
Yeah.
they want, and that really isn't the right way, and that it can really come back and bite you in the ass.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I've always been like Kodak said, and he said to me very recently, and I may have put a tweet out about it, which doesn't really, it kind of contradicts what I'm on about now, but it was basically, I just saw a lot of people. This one tweet that I just saw, and I was just like, that can't be the way, surely.
I'm
Like,
seeing
it was
that,
just
yeah.
so ridiculous. I was like, what the hell is that? And Coda just said it's a bunch of keyboard merchants. I totally agree with him. I, I accept people don't want to show their appearance and stuff like that. But if you are one of those people, then really don't go and like make yourself heard. And then, if you understand what I mean, like, don't make yourself a big deal if no one knows who you are, because you really look quite dodgy. So, really, you don't. I personally don't believe they have much right, but it's just like, you know, I understand why people don't do it, because they understand what, this community is very, very ruthless. Like, they will rinse you for anything, right? They will rinse you for anything. A picture that you'll put on Twitter of yourself and that gets found out. Now, I'm in a position where everyone, or at least most people, know what my name is, my age, what I look like. They know pretty much everything there is to know about me, but I just don't. Yeah, some people just decide not to. And, like, to be honest, I respect it. If they don't want to show that's if they don't want to really show who they are, then that's fine. But don't hate on people for showing who they are, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people hide behind masks, right? But I think you mentioned as well, some people trying to be big and be known by saying something really controversial. A lot of the time, it just backfires on them, and I think people need to, I think, just take a moment and go, should I really tweet that? Should I really reply to that in that sort of way? And hopefully people do. And this is really the point of this series, is to try and sort of maybe help someone in the community. Maybe like there's hopefully what we've talked about. Hopefully it'll help someone in the commentary sense, and hopefully it'll help someone in the sense that they'll think about what they tweet before they send or press accept or whatever. Hopefully it does help. And I wanted to go back to sort of commentary life games, and I wanted to,
Great.
of course, you've been commentating for a long, long time, and we've done multiple commentary together. What sort of tips give someone, young or old,
Yeah.
in a commentary sense, to try and maybe improve or maybe even get on the ladder as a commentator?
Difficult one. To be fair, I'm coming up to only my second year of commentary, which is scary, but I've done a lot in that time.
Mhm.
For commentators that want to get into commentary, now it sounds like I'm talking crap again, but I do get asked a question quite a lot. How do I do it? Now, first of all, and it's obvious as hell, you need to know what you're on about, because people won't listen to you otherwise. You're not you're literally not like I can't really ways to describe it. It's almost like a reg count, a rev like limiter on a car. You're not one of those either. And what I mean by that is you're not looking at one thing all of the time, going backwards and forward. By that I mean you don't just look at the lap, and you don't just look at the standings. You don't just talk about the standings and what car they're in, and you ride on board with them, and you show how close a gap is. You need context behind what you're saying. I think that's the big thing which most commentators who start get wrong immediately, is they look for, they look through the order. If it's a boring race and they've been thrown as the first commentary, it is difficult to speak about stuff, but you need to find things to talk about, because there's never a dull race. You probably a cliche as hell, but there's never a dull race. To get onto the ladder, I would go the route personally I went, and I'm only speaking through experience, and that is go low, aim for the top. When I was at the very low, I just thought at the time, and I've said to him very recently when I've commentated with Rapids or Dom, as I said, when I was at the bottom, he was the guy I wanted to be. That was the guy that I wanted to commentate with, because I was just like, that is the pinnacle. That was what I thought was the pinnacle. And then as you got there, I said my next pinnacle would have been AOR Tier 1, which was a big, big step, granted. But I said, that's where I want to be. And eventually I got there. And if it wasn't for those, maybe take little steps to get there, but it's very difficult in league racing to gauge how big a league is and stuff like this. You get commentators like yourself, Ollie, and Nuthead and Swarm, and you guys I've always said have deserved far more than what you get. You're probably too good for some leagues that you do. No disrespect to the league, but I think personally, people like yourself should be on the AOR pecking order. People should be looking at you going, why aren't you there? Like ILR as well. I'm going to be honest, they should be going, why haven't we? I know the incidences we've had, Ollie, so I won't go into them. But it's why the hell some people don't get there. But you just got to work your ass off, and eventually you'll get to a position that you'll like. It's also how passionate you are about commentating as well. I think that if you're not passionate at all about it, don't do it, because clearly I'm going to be blunt, not going to be very good. You just got to make sure that you know what you're talking about. You're passionate. If you're not passionate, people won't respect you as much, because clearly you're not showing as much enthusiasm, and people want to be enthused by what they're listening to. So there's a couple of tips for like starters, but yeah, in terms of like getting to the top or getting to real life commentaries, that's a very difficult thing to do. As you would have gathered, not many people in this community, like you said, have actually got there. So it is difficult to get there. It's no question, because I asked around. I've emailed so many companies. I've emailed so many different people, and like I said earlier, I had conversations with professional commentators. So I've spoken with James Allen, spoken with David Addison, and people I like, Richard. Can't remember his name. He does a lot of other stuff for the British Touring Car Championship. I've spoken to a lot of these guys, and they all say the same thing. It's like, if you want to make it big in commentary, you can, but make sure that you're doing more than one thing, like more than one sport, perhaps, or more than one motorsport. So don't just go in and go, you know what, I'm going to commentate. I only want to commentate F1 for the rest of my life. Yeah, okay, but you may not get there. So you'll need a sport to prove to you in your portfolio of work. And that's another thing. Make a portfolio of work, because examples are crucial in this business. People aren't going to, you've got to make an impression. So when you make these portfolios of work, they've got to be your best pieces. They've got to be your best examples. And they've got to be the races where you prove that you can do a lot of things. And that isn't often shouting down a microphone, giving it hell for leather. Sometimes that can be just speaking, showing how a race is unfolding. It's not always the way, but yeah, basically I would suggest, if you want to get into real life commentary, so a man of your position, Ollie, if you wanted to do it, I would suggest just going around and contacting different places, or get in contact with me, to be honest, because I seemingly now have a fair few contacts myself. So if you did, then I can help people out. But I'm not offering that out to people who have never done it before. I have offered commentary positions on a real life basis to people in the past, but have been rejected. So I'm doing my best to help every commentator in this community as best as I can, because it's not an easy business. We do get a lot of hate for some things, and I don't agree with it an awful lot.
Oh, some fantastic tips, and hopefully that has helped someone out there. Yeah, thank you for the nice comments from yourself from me.
It's all right.
I think for me, I know this is interviews about you, but I like to try and chip in times. I think for me,
Yeah, of course.
as a commentator, I am working full time in engineering at the moment. Difficult to.
Yeah.
I'd love to do it full time. I think it is a passion of mine, but I think I need to improve further than what I can do. There's some bits that I stumble and repeat myself a few times, and if I can change that, I'm sure I can get somewhere. But yeah, I think a lot of people. I think like you said, there are a few commentators out there that just talk just about the color of the car and the gap between them, and I think that's where a lot of people struggle to find the extra more content to fill those times where the race does die down. Well, it always happens in any race. There's no race where it's 100% full on and it's always exciting. That never happens. Maybe 1 in 100 that happens. But I think you make some great points, and ask out there, ask for experience, make a portfolio. I think that's what people don't have. You just go, oh, you must have seen me. I've done this, and that. Well, unless you can show them, they're not going to believe you, and they won't go out into it. You have to do it. You have to go to them and and get and get places. I think that's the key.
It's not what people often show it as on Twitter. People go, I got offered this. It's like, yeah, you did, but you're going to have got into some contact with. What I'm saying is, no one because of the nature of where we are. It's a big community,
Mhm.
but really, you're just a fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
You're not really anywhere at all. Like, nobody from Formula One, nobody from touring cars, let's be honest here, are going to be looking at us. So
Yes.
you've got to ask them just to even rate what you're doing. Like, what do they think about what you're doing? Because sometimes that's a good prerogative to go off. That's what I did with a few people. And sure as hell, it worked sometimes. But you, nobody's going to come up to you physically and go, I want you to do this. League racing, they will, but not in real life. Unless you're in a real life position where you're a professional, that is the only time where you'll get your Sky Sports, your ITV Sports. They're going to come up to you and go, yeah, I want you to commentate for this. Until you get to that point, you will not get picked up on very quickly at all. Or the other one that if you work within touring cars, say you're, I don't know, for example, you're doing like a small little piece where you're doing I don't know, a little report on a race or something at the circuit, people may look at you and they may go, actually, you're quite good. And that's even a way to get contacts from people. From the experiences I had from doing the 24-hour race, believe it or not, I went from Middlesbrough to Buckmore Park for the WTF1 event, and people knew who I was. Like,
Oh,
people
wow.
knew, yeah, that's scary. Like, some people that had heard who I was, now, oh, did you do that? And that is a very surreal thing, and that put a massive smile on my face, because clearly people were watching what I was doing, and that was great to see. And there's other little things. I very nearly commentated on the WTF1 event, but the guys had already had it sorted. That would have been a mega experience, I tell you. It was a brilliant day. But you just got to get in contact with these people, and you will get found out. People will find you out, but you've got to put the effort in, and you've got to ask, because nobody's going to come up to you as free-nilly and offer you it. It does not work like that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's some great advice for myself, for younger commentators, people who've not even ever done anything. Yeah, some great advice. So I wanted to finish on two questions. First one, if you could go back 5, 6, 7 years, give yourself a piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Well, it's going to be difficult because Cody Axel's absolutely incredible. uh, um, seven. If I mean seven, at 6, 7 years ago. I mean, for you that was teenage years. For me, that's literally I was like 10,
Yeah,
9, 10. So
of course, yeah.
uh, at that age, I don't really know. Honestly, I'm going to be completely honest. Advice I'd give myself is just accept people for who they are. Perhaps just accept certain things. Just try stuff out, because I, for one, when I was a younger age, I just didn't take opportunities as much as I do now. I regret it massively. I'm not going to go into a sob story, but I'll tell you now. When I was very young, I had well, I still do. I have what I'm going to describe as an old man's hip. So basically, when I was younger, I was given this disease called Perthes disease, and basically, that I've seen prevents people from walking. Like, they cannot walk through it, and I've been fortunate enough to do that. And when I think that to myself, and I think it now, I well up, because I can't quite believe that I'm one of them fortunate people that isn't in that position. And I'm bloody grateful for that. But also, the other thing I was told when I was like 10 years old, and this isn't word of a lie, I got told by doctors that you'll never play sport again, you'll never run again, you'll never do this again. That hit me like a ton of bloody bricks, I tell you.
Mhm.
And I just went, no, and I just like, F that. I was just like, I'm not having that crap. So when I was that kind of age, I just said, I'm going to play more sport than ever. I'm going to hit things harder. And I just said, I'm not giving in. And if there's a one thing that anyone takes in life in general, is just do not bloody give up. You give up, I just do not respect people that give up. You give it 110% every bloody time. You knock out the park, you hit it for 6. Do not be the one that misses out on that opportunity because you didn't want it in the first place. Take anything you get. because you don't know what's around the corner. You'll get a brilliant opportunity. I just think you must take it. And the big regret is when I was younger, I didn't do that, and that was what cost me, in some senses, other careers that I could have gone into. But yeah, that's one thing I'd say for myself.
Never ever give. Very good piece
Yeah.
of advice. And finally, James, the last question I want to ask you: what do you want to be remembered?
It's a I don't. I mean, for myself. It's very difficult. It's weird actually when you say that. I actually have a lot of mates who don't know. In fact, actually, none of my mates know that I do league racing, that I commentate on league racing, that I commentate at all.
Mhm.
Believe it or not, that's my deep secret that no one that I know of knows about. No one knows that I do commentary and stuff. And
Mhm.
one thing I want to be remembered for is, in a way, it's like when I get to a stage where I've got a big professional role, I just want them people to turn around and just go, "What? Like Jesus, what? Like what's just happened?" Kind of thing. I don't want to be in an industry to be popular. I want to be in an industry to be liked, respected. If I wanted to, it's difficult to kind of explain, but everyone deserves some sort of plaudits for what they get, but I just want people to remember me for just working my bloody arse off to get to a position where I am or want to be, and ultimately just hit everything. Like I say, just be the position I want to be. Be the person who's had their dream job. That's kind of all I want to be remembered for. I don't really know in what kind of time frame, but I just want to be the person that, started off as a plucky little sim racer and went on and done big things. That'll be a great thing to think.
And I've got my fingers crossed, and hopefully that does happen, James, in the
Thank you. That's
future.
for you.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for joining me, James, and thank you everyone for listening on today's episode of Beyond the Visor. Don't forget to follow James and myself on Twitter and other social media. It will be down below in the description, and we'll see you very soon for a brand new episode of Beyond the Visor very, very soon. Good night, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed.